Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who is still a Cristiano Ronaldo stan. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I learned so many new things today, including that, apparently.
I told Taylor what a stan is.
Yes.
Yeah. If you don't know, look it up. It's a good word, I think.
I don't think I'm a stan for many things.
Yeah.
Like maybe just Always Sunny. I will refuse to hear negative comments about that show. That's about it.
Are you really a Ronaldo stan? I can't remember your
No, that you're conflating me with Albert. Albert is the Ronaldo apologist.
That's right. He can do no wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You are an admirer, I want to say, but you had some concerns when Ronaldo left Manchester United back in the day.
I mean, are we going back in the way back machine? Because that was way back when.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's fine. He's good.
He's fine.
He's good at what he does.
He's 2 goals fine today because this is the Total Soccer Show quick take. Not hot take, just quick take, instant review of Real Madrid's 3-1 away win over Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. So we didn't watch the other games, we just watched this game, and we're going to give you a quick review of the things what we saw.
So one thing I do enjoy when we review games in like the long form is going back and watching like big chunks of them again to see if the narrative that we thought was unfolding is actually what was happening, or if maybe we were caught up in the emotion of it. I would say that when I was first watching this game, I had moments of like, this feels like the stuff that we're going to point to in the review as things going very poorly for Borussia Dortmund, and they were. So I'm going to say that even if we rewatched this again, we would see more or less the same thing.
So what are the things that you saw then? I guess we'll get into individual goals in a bit, but yeah, what are some big things, big patterns that you saw?
I saw Borussia Dortmund bringing out the high press in a way that like it seemed as though they thought nobody would ever see this coming, even though it's something they do on a regular basis. And you know who saw it coming? Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Because Borussia Dortmund played the high press, but it seems like every single time Madrid managed to have a man free. Yeah. And then also they played that high line, and pretty often Madrid managed to break that high line.
I would say when you try and press Madrid, you're looking at, we had this conversation in studio, Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, I would say are 2 of the best midfielders in the whole world at holding on to the ball. They're not going to give away possession cheaply, and they're probably going to wiggle their way out and then play a killer through ball of some sort, or a killer crossfield ball in Toni Kroos' case.
Yeah. And we don't have a lot of like moments of silence in this office. There's a lot of talking usually from my side of the room. And I would say when you made that declaration, there was a lot of like,
You were trying to think of someone else, right?
Yeah, and then I think in the end I was like, I think you're right. I think that's the 2. If you're trying to hold on to the ball, that's the 2 to go with.
Eric Ronaldo did briefly say that Castro was one of the best passers in the world.
Yeah, but he certainly said that. I'll also say
he meant like maybe top 22 passers on the field.
Sure. He's one of the 22. I'll also say that it felt like Borussia Dortmund had this like I imagine them on the locker room and Peter Bosz was like, are we going to go out there and press? Like, yeah. Are we going to try to hit them on the break? Yeah. And then it was like, are we going to keep an organized back line? We'll see how it goes. Like it was a very like, meh.
That was the thing, right? Meh. Part of the high press is you have a high line, right? You squeeze your players quite far up the field. Dortmund had a high line, a back 4 for most of the game, right? First half and a bit of the second half. And they just couldn't quite keep it straight.
Right.
They couldn't quite keep it straight.
No.
And Bale and Ronaldo absolutely exploited it with pace and intelligence.
In a way that it seemed as though Socrates and Omar Toprak were playing together for the first time. Like, they kept drifting. Oh, my gosh. Daryl wrote, I'll let you get to it in a moment. I don't even know if it qualifies as a dad joke, but it was after Omar Toprak, twice Madrid had a breakthrough. Both times it was because he was playing too deep. And I think on one of those occasions, he then got back in position just in time for Danny Carvajal to turn.
With a pretty simple cut, sent Toprak sliding in the wrong direction. Carvajal really should have scored,
And what did you write? And I want to say, full disclosure, I told Daryl to go out in the hall and think about what he did.
More like Omer bottom rack. Or
I'm going to make you sit in that. Just sit in it.
I could have worked on this. It should be more like bottom rack, Omer right. That makes it worse and better at the same time.
Get out.
But yeah, so we put a lot of focus on...
I have walked out of this recording once before. We left it in the show. It was over a joke that might have been better than that. I'm just saying.
So Toprak did not do a great job of keeping with the rest of the line. But at the same time, his partner, Socrates, who was captain, didn't do a great job either. I don't think he wasn't so much in the dropping deep and keeping people onside. He was more of the sort of stepping out unnecessarily...
Yeah, well, it was like being way too focused on Cristiano Ronaldo, which is what happened for the first goal. It seems like both he and Toprak had kind of drifted over just in case there was any chance Ronaldo got free. They'd both be on him.
Yeah.
But then that left Gareth Bale wide open for that beautiful like one-touch volley to the back of the net. But then for the third goal, he
wasn't focused enough on
he basically was like, oh, Luka Modric has the ball 50 yards from goal and is kind of being pressured by Julian Weigl. I better run over there and help him, even though I'm now leaving Cristiano Ronaldo wide open in the middle of the field. Oh, he's got the ball. Well, that's not good. And it was not good indeed.
And Luka Modric can certainly measure a pass into Ronaldo's path when Ronaldo's on not a problem.
I don't know if you agree with this. I'm of the opinion that he and Toni Kroos are like the two people you want when you're trying to possess the ball. You're welcome.
I've heard that somewhere. Someone really smart told me that.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Can we get to that first goal then? The first Real Madrid goal. In fact, I want to go a minute before that.
Sure.
Because before Madrid score their first goal, Borussia Dortmund think, it's like 2 minutes before, Borussia Dortmund think they should have a penalty for a Sergio Ramos handball in the box.
It's the 14th minute, I believe. It's basically it's a bad throw-in from Carvajal, starts it. Then it's a really bad sort of attempted pass back to either Ramos or Varane. We're not sure which one.
Can I stop us there for a second? I think it's a bad throw from Carvajal because Dortmund have done a good job of like stepping up, marking everybody off. That's part of a press.
He has no options.
Is that you pressure everybody, so no options. Carvajal's only option, I think, is to throw to Isco under pressure. And normally Isco would deal with it, right? Because he could have, with a bit of skill, could have passed to someone. And I think he just tried a little too hard to get to Varane.
I think he tried to be a little overly elaborate, because I think he, if he was passing just straight to Sergio Ramos, then he just mishits the ball. But I think he is trying to be clever and lift it over, but instead he just kind of whiffs, and that leads to a counterattack from Dortmund. Ball maybe overhit by Yarmolenko. I'd say it was
absolutely overhit from Yarmolenko. Yeah, he gets down the wing, looks up, and it essentially could have chipped it onto Aubameyang's head. Goes a little too high.
It does, but then it's headed back in, and then that's where we have the save from Keylor Navas. I would say onto the hand of Sergio Ramos. I know Eric Ronaldo, for example, who's doing the color commentary, he seemed to be leaning towards it should have been a red card and a penalty kick. I'm not even sure it should have been a handball. Yeah,
so my read on this, I think I agree with you then, probably for the same reasons, is that one of the things referees are told to take into account is the distance the ball travels to get to your hand.
I'll actually add, this was you argued this first, and I was sort of like, no, I think it's a handball. We watched it more. I think you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, so it's because the ball is redirected into Ramos' hand by Keylor Navas at close distance, right? It's even closer than the two of us are now. It's like Navas is coming out and redirects it straight into Ramos. I want to say 12 inches, like less than a foot away. So Ramos has no time to react. And for me, that if you're the referee supposed to take into account the distance of the player from the ball when it's struck, then that's where that starts. And therefore, Ramos, I don't believe, should be penalised for that. I'd even maybe say that's what the referee called. Yeah, because they kept talking on Fox. They were saying Fox Sports. They were saying, "Oh, have they both referees missed it?" I'm not sure they did. I think they saw it, but then took it into account the distance, and so let it slide.
I do want to add, I saw this about 400 times on Reddit and Twitter and several other places. So people saying, "I never see those referees behind the end line do anything. They never move. They never talk to the official. Why are they even there? This is so stupid." The answer is because they're mic'd up and they have a mic straight into the referee's ear. They're not supposed to gesture. They're not supposed to indicate anything. They're supposed to just tell him that was this, that was that. It's not supposed to be a very you don't want them running onto the field to be like, it wasn't this, it was that. Like they're supposed to give input, as does the fourth official, as do the ARs.
All right, so you're a stand for fifth official behind the goal.
Sure. I mean, I think I'd still rather have Hawkeye and video assistant replay and all that. But if you got to have something, it's better to have something.
But that's the argument that's coming, right? It's going to be video assistant referee, video assistant review versus the behind the goal referees. There's going to be a choice that UEFA specifically has to make for the Champions League in the future, maybe as soon as next season.
Yeah, and this is where I think it always will remain murky, because in that situation, you have people, Eric Ronaldo, for example, who would say that's denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. It's a clear handball. It's on the line. It might have been going in. It's got to be given. I don't know if you have video assistant referee, if it's even reviewable, because I don't think it's that obvious. I think you could argue, there's no time to react. He doesn't know what he's doing. Yes, maybe his hands are in an unnatural position, but again, I don't think that that's fair justification in this situation. So I don't even know if that would have helped so much, VAR, that is.
I guess we'll never know.
What
did happen is just a couple minutes later, maybe 3 or 4 minutes later.
4 minutes later, yep.
4 minutes later, Real Madrid go down the other end, and Gareth Bale puts that ball in the back of the net with, I believe, his left foot. It's kind of a nice instep volley on from a really nice diagonal ball from Carvajal. I'm not quite sure how he hits this, but it's got a nice I don't know what the word is. It's got a nice streak on it.
I think he hits it. It's the one-time instep, but it has that sort of...
the Carvajal pass I'm talking about.
Oh, CZ, I'm sorry.
It's half cross, half through ball, half diagonal ball. It's a bit of everything.
It's 1.5. There it is. But it's a great ball, and it's well spotted. That said, that's about as wide open as a player can be, especially in the Champions League at such a high level.
Yeah.
And it's essentially from what I could see, because they cut away to show you some replays, but it looks like Madrid put Dortmund under pressure. That led to a Dortmund throw-in deep in Dortmund's own territory. Mm-hmm. That's when the replay cuts away. When it cuts back, Madrid have gotten the ball back. So my assumption is that you have a lot of Madrid players putting on that high pressure, and from where he was, I'm guessing Bale was marking the thrower, so that when that ball gets cleared, then I think everybody stepped up, more or less, that Dortmund line stepped up probably like 5 or 10 yards. Bale took his time getting in there, and then recognized that once again that Dortmund backline had kind of scattered a little bit, that people weren't where they needed to be to keep a consistent line, and he was able to operate within that. He hops right back onside right when that ball is delivered, maybe even a couple seconds before, and that's why he's so wide open.
I noticed he put his arm in the air to call for the ball when he was offside, but then is running back into an onside position. Then Carvajal delivers, and then he can sort of run onto it, makes it sound like a through ball, but like stride forward to meet it in step with his left foot.
Absolutely.
But just because a player's offside, you've still got to think about him, right? You're still supposed to be concerned about him. And I'm looking at Socrates, because Socrates is next to Toprak, and they're both marking. I'm not sure who it is. Is it maybe Isco? They're marking. Oh, it's Ronaldo.
No, it's Ronaldo.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. Yeah. They're both focused on Ronaldo, and Bale's just like, hey, I also cost a lot of money.
And this is where it's maybe worth clarifying, because if you're new to soccer, relatively new, you may have heard us be frustrated with players like Omar Gonzalez who drop way too deep when a player is offside and they bring them onside. What we mean when we say, like, you've got to pay attention to the player even if he's offside, is recognize that, like, okay, if this guy hops back onside in an ideal moment, am I in a position to be able to cover? So even if Gareth Bale is 5 yards behind you, Daryl Grove, a competent center back, would say, oh, I need to make sure that I adjust my body just a little bit so I'm not cheating too far over. So if he does come back in, I'm within touching distance of being able to cover him. Not, oh, he's 5 yards offside, so I'll run 10 yards away.
Yeah.
Not great. Not great from Dortmund. Nor was it that much better with the second goal.
No, it wasn't. No. So this is half-time, 1-0. We're thinking, okay, maybe Dortmund can turn it around. Because part of this is, we're watching this game because we wanted to see Christian Pulisic. We haven't mentioned him yet because he did not start for Dortmund. It was Yarmolenko on the right, Philippe on the left, Aubameyang through the middle, Pulisic not involved until late in the second half. They come out half-time, no changes. No changes. Real Madrid have the ball in the back of the net 4 minutes later.
Yep. And once again, it's really good, like, thoughtful possession from Madrid, and then basically springing a counterattack, and Dortmund just kind of completely unaware of what's happening.
Is this the ball that goes down, like, in the left channel for Bale, and Bale squares it for Ronaldo?
It is indeed. And again, it's Bale spotting. More credit for Gareth Bale, I guess, because it's again that I believe it's Socrates with him this time. Socrates is on the right-hand side this time, and is level with Gareth Bale. If you track the line across, Toprak is about 5 yards, maybe 3 yards deeper than Socrates, as is the left back Toljan. So they're both. So again, you have two of your back four not keeping a high line or not keeping the line consistent. Gareth Bale spots that, stays behind the ones closest to him, but obviously the ones who are keeping him on side are 50 yards away. So he's got plenty of space to run into.
And the other piece of this is when the ball is played, Ronaldo is behind the Dortmund defence. So, right, Ronaldo is in an offside position, but not offside, obviously, because the ball is to Bale. But then once that ball's free, Ronaldo's free to get involved. And he's got the step on the defence because he was beyond the back line.
And then maybe doesn't even have that much of a step, except for Omar Toprak apparently just decides, like, he can score. Whatever. Like, it kind of blows my mind how little energy he puts into closing that gap down, because it's always...
Toljan was trying hard, right?
He was, but it's always difficult, obviously, if they've got a decent amount of yards on you. But if you can put them under any pressure, even just a little bit, sometimes that's enough. And then he did this sort of like...
At least make him think twice, right? Make him think, another guy's coming.
He reached... at max 70% speed, and I'd say that's being generous, and then turned that off very quickly. So I was not impressed by that decision, and it felt, with everything that we're talking about with this second goal, it felt like whack-a-mole. At least you hit the mole occasionally. It just felt like the cartoon where, like, the dam keeps springing leaks and you're plugging it, and then another one pops up and another one pops up.
The moles are Bale and Ronaldo in this case.
Because in this case it was like, okay, Ronaldo's now offside, but we got to make sure we track him to make sure that he doesn't get that long ball over the top, coming back from an offside position to an onside position. Oh no, we've kept Gareth Bale onside again as a result.
We have a moment for Ronaldo's finish as well. When this low ball comes in, Ronaldo does very well to sort of run across, run a little diagonal. And I feel like he meets the ball, and it would be tempting to just side foot it, but he kind of gets under it and chips it powerfully, like he's got some super powered golf club.
There's still a small tiny little part of me that thinks there's a deflection on this, just because
a little bit of Toljan on this.
Maybe because he still hits it hard, I would say. But it does have this weird sort of trajectory that doesn't make any sense unless there's either a little bit of a deflection or Cristiano Ronaldo is a wizard, and both of those are possibilities.
Those are possibilities. I would say Ronaldo doesn't follow through very hard and doesn't have much backlift on it. That's what makes me think it's kind of like a golf chip type thing. But I don't play a lot of golf.
And then he heard you say this and thought, oh, I didn't hit that one hard enough? Well, allow me to show you the third goal.
So in between, Borussia Dortmund score. Borussia Dortmund get back on the board. It's that pass from Castro to Aubameyang in the 6-yard box. Really nice run across the front of the defence from Aubameyang. Sergio Ramos tracks him all the way. I want to say, it's such a good run from Aubameyang that Ramos does everything right. And still, Aubameyang gets to a spot where he can meet the ball and score. Yeah,
I mean, it's the type of goal where if you want to try to assign blame, really, like, you can't fault Keylor Navas for that because there's no way he can really react to that in time. You can't fault Sergio Ramos because he's tracking Aubameyang as much as you can. I think the only thing you can do...
He leg across, right? So he's doing everything.
I think all you can say is that maybe whoever's supposed to be marking Gonzalo Castro has to get to him a little bit faster, put him under more pressure. Maybe it was Omar Toprak, and that was the problem.
One thing I would say, based on sort of the run of this game, is I slightly worry that Dortmund's plan of attack a little too much was, let's just feed Aubameyang in the box. Because he's, like we talked about, he's very good at making that exact kind of run with which he scores the goal, right? He's very clever at, like, darting to the near and far post, finding space, and then sort of... it's like he's really good at geometry. He knows how to meet the angle in a way that looks tough, but he can redirect it like past the keeper and on goal, right? But it's almost like that's all Dortmund have got sometimes. And it's just constantly trying to pull that off. And it might be worth a different plan of attack instead of just keep on feeding Aubameyang.
Well, I would say it also requires a lot of, like, precision and maybe a little bit of luck and a lot of, like, familiarity. And if one of those things is off, and maybe not even luck, but just you've got to know, like, you got to be feeling it, you got to be in that groove of, like, oh, he's going to deliver that ball there. Like, I would say that goal from Dortmund is an example of how, like, well linked up they can be. That was, again, we've already said it, like, you couldn't really defend that ball in and you couldn't really defend that goal. It's just that overall Dortmund weren't in that level of rhythm where you didn't see that consistently. And so instead, it looked like almost a glaring deficiency that they kept trying to play these balls in, kept trying to find Aubameyang in space, but then didn't give him any support, and you had lots of problems as a result.
The early one with Yarmolenko, where he sort of chips it a little too high for Aubameyang, seems like an example of if not everything is perfect, then it doesn't come off. We started talking in studio. I kind of feel like we started to see the limits of Aubameyang because he's so good at that thing in the box. But when he receives the ball with, like, maybe a couple of defenders to run at, he never really scared Real Madrid, right? Ramos and Varane stood up to him really, really well anytime he was sort of like 1-on-2. It was easy to force him wide or block his shot.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from with that, but I would also point out that, like, you look, especially later in the game when Pulisic is on, there's the one at the end of the second half where, like, Aubameyang dribbles to the end line, basically tries to cross for Pulisic, overhits it. But Pulisic's the only one in the box, and really is the only one near the goal, like, I think probably within, like, 20 yards. So in that situation, it feels like a lot of the time in the game, that situation is a good, like, barometer for the rest of the game, that it felt like a lot of times Aubameyang was running at people without much support around him. And so it's sort of like, well, I guess I better take this guy on too and see what I can do.
And my criticism is that almost that, like, well, Leo Messi would have done something, but it's really unfair to be judging Aubameyang.
Well, one of, if not the greatest players in the world / of all time would have done something different there. I would love to see you coach, like, 7-year-olds and say that.
Leo Messi would have done it.
He sure would have.
All right, so did we talk about the third and final goal, which is really what
we alluded to it, I would
ended the game, right? Cristiano Ronaldo ends the game by beating Ron Berkey at his near post.
He sure does.
He must have seen that Spurs game.
I mean, it was funny because we didn't even notice
the big gap that Berkey left.
Yeah. I don't even, like, it's so crazy though, because even in this situation, it doesn't look like he left that much of a gap, which I think is a testament to how hard Cristiano Ronaldo hit that ball, that if you hit it perfectly and with that much pace, then it's perfect.
He probably took some of the right enough.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I'm not sure who makes Champions League balls. I think it's Adidas, but I think there's, like, some of the stenciling is missing off of that ball now.
Probably. And again, this is the one that we talked about earlier, where again Socrates step. He just decides to step to Luka Modric, and I don't get it at all.
No, because Weigl, who's come on, has kind of lost Modric, but is still like trying to get to him. Right?
I mean, but even then, I feel like if you haven't seen this game and you're basing enough our description, to lose somebody, it makes it sound like there's a huge gap that's opened up. I'd say he's like maybe a yard or two away. Like, it is not as though he is just negligent and now all of a sudden, and on top of that, it's not as though Modric has the ball like at the top of the box and Socrates is in some sort of decision point.
The halfway line and the penalty area, right? So it's danger-ish zone, but it's not like red alert.
No.
And Socrates acts like it's red alert, and I've got to step out and cut this out before he passes to Ronaldo. But it's like he hasn't calculated it through in his head that if he does that, he leaves Ronaldo open and actually makes it more likely.
Yeah, and then on top of that, like, if you are going to step, which I wouldn't advise, then you at least have to continue to keep your like geometry in mind. You've got to keep your line in place, because otherwise, if you take a terrible approach, which is what Socrates does, you haven't cut out the pass at all, and you've left your man open. So now there's an open pass to an open man who is capable of finishing a goal.
Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah. Okay, I know what Dortmund's problem is then. They need geometry lessons run by Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Once a week, they all need to gather around, and Aubameyang can talk them through how angles work.
Sure. Or Ronaldo. or Bale.
But he's not going to help them.
Or Modric.
I'm saying Aubameyang because he's a Dortmund fan.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if Modric and Kroos could do some sort of like freelance, here's how to hold on to the ball coaching for every team in the world, soccer would become either much better or much worse to watch.
Sure. I won't disagree with that.
Yeah.
You
want to talk Chrissy P?
Sure.
So Christian Pulisic was the final sub off the bench for Dortmund. We kind of weren't surprised, right? Because he's had a good run in the Dortmund first team, and I know that they rotate around a little bit. He came off the bench. They changed up the formation at this point, right? They'd gone to a back three.
Yep.
Pulisic seemed to me to play essentially right midfield / right wing, but also have to do a lot of defending. So he stayed wide and he had a lot of up and down to do.
I think they essentially, when they made their first two changes, it was Daoud and Weigl coming on.
Yeah.
I think that's when they went to something closer to a 3-4-2-1.
Yeah,
and then I think Pulisic came in as the right midfielder in that 4, which, as we've talked about previously, means he's doing a lot more of like the stretching the field, staying wide, getting back defensively and freeing up those 3 attackers. He still tried to contribute, don't get me wrong, but it did seem like we didn't see very much of him even in a 16-minute cameo.
And he really the fight had gone out of Dortmund as soon as Ronaldo scores that goal. So the last like 10 minutes or so are kind of
So I mean there's still effort there, but it makes me happy that like we've kind of reached the point with him. Like, he had one where he sprints back 30 yards to shut down like a semi opportunity for Real Madrid. He has the one where he charges into the goal and Aubameyang overhits the cross. But these are moments that in the past we would have looked upon as like, see, he's doing this and this is really exciting, and no other player would have done that. And instead we're just sort of like, he got 14 minutes, it's whatever.
So, okay, this review, have we focused too much on Dortmund and maybe not talked about sort of how great Real Madrid were?
Probably.
Or are we just sort of, is that taken for granted when you see the lineup? When you see Modric and Kroos and Isco, I'd include Isco in this now, and Bale and Ronaldo and Sergio Ramos doing his thing?
Maybe this is a little too like philosophical or rambling, so I apologize in advance. But I think anytime a team like Dortmund, who are playing very, very well, top of the Bundesliga right now, are taken apart with like that much, this could have been 5 or 6 to 1 easily.
Yeah, Berkey really good saves,
Yeah, and so when you think about it from that perspective, I think a lot of times it's easier to look at how, like, what went wrong for the losing team, but more so, like, I feel like what we try to do is look at what went right for the attacking team in the sense of what went wrong for Dortmund. So when we talk about
what Madrid were able to exploit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when we're talking about like what Socrates is doing wrong, we're not saying like, oh, Socrates got it wrong, he just had a terrible game and thus Madrid won. We're saying like they put him out of position here, so then the next time he didn't want to step and that left this guy open. Like, it's basically, maybe we haven't talked about them enough, but it's because I think they were so impressive that it's more so interesting to look at like what Dortmund did wrong as a result of what Madrid did right.
Because I feel like facing Ronaldo and Bale is like sitting the hardest exam of your life, and then it just depends how you do, how you do on the day.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly Bale and Ronaldo that get the headlines and get a lot of the attention, but like you look at everything Isco did. I mean, he had that one mistake that we talked about, but a lot of it was really linking up play, causing problems, drifting out wide, but then staying central, but then drifting to the other side. So no one ever really knew where he was, which allows for overmatches. You have Modric and Kroos in the middle, who obviously are doing the things that we mentioned.
And then Casemiro locking it down.
I mean, that the play that we mentioned when Carvajal just kind of breaks off Omar Toprak, it comes about from Casemiro receives the ball, I want to say 30 to 35 yards from his own goal with his back to Dortmund's goal, and like turns on a half volley and hits that ball through for Carvajal.
Do you think his skills as a passer and a creator are either underrated or downplayed because he's being asked to be the sort of central defensive midfielder in this Real Madrid team. It's almost like we don't realise just how good he is.
Well, I would say, but that makes it sound like he doesn't want to be doing that. And
I would say maybe in a different team he gets to express himself a little more. And there's a few more Casemiro skill clips on Reddit, but it's almost like he's doing a slightly Claude Makelele job. And Claude Makelele really was the guy who just intercept the pass, win the ball, pass it short, let the more talented players work with it. I just feel like Casemiro's got a bit more about him, but because he's got Modric and Kroos and Isco and all those guys to work with, he's restrained a little bit.
Yeah. I mean. No. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think I agree, because I think it's just more so like he does the job that he needs to do. He fills the space. He marks people out of the game. He plays simple, but he's capable of playing really beautiful soccer at the same time. He is Brazilian. So, but he is the one that when you talk about Brazil, I've talked about the Brazil national team with several of our Brazilian friends here in Richmond, and a lot of times it ends up being like, yeah, our front three is amazing, and these two center backs are awesome, but Casemiro.
Oh, he's renovated in Brazil.
He is going to be that sort of holding midfielder that I don't think we've seen from Brazil in a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
I'd rather have him than David Luiz doing that job.
So eyes on him at the 2018 World Cup as of Brazil's key man, right?
I'd say so.
All right, early preview of the 2018 World Cup here on the Total Soccer Show. All right, there's more Champions League tomorrow, but it happens kind of late in the afternoon for us. And because of our schedule, we are going to be doing listener questions on Wednesday's show. Wednesday's show is going to be listener questions. Then we'll do maybe thumbs up, thumbs down on Champions League. Maybe Thursday morning. How about that?
Yeah, that works for me.
Sounds good. All right, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you, Daryl Grove, for doing the very same thing, and I'm drawing it out just to say we should also say well done to Spurs, joint top of this group.
I nearly forgot. Okay, so joint top, Spurs won 3-0 at Hapoel Nicosia. Hapoel Nicosia, there's no H, right? In Group H. Harry Kane hat-trick, once again getting my hopes up about the 2018 World Cup.
I mean, and I think you described this off-air as like, what was it? It was like receiving a through ball. Yeah, it was like receiving a good through ball, turning and finishing. It was a good headed finish, and then it was receiving the ball at the top of the box, kind of receiving it behind him a little bit, pulling in front of him, and then sliding it home to the far post.
Is it so? The final goal, I think, is a lot of what Harry Kane is about, which is even if the ball's not perfect, he's very efficient at setting himself up to take the shot in not that much space. Like, he gets set and shoots really, really quick.
Yeah, but I think he also, like, maybe what we're learning about like incredibly athletic and skillful players is that they also have ability to like be super flexible. Because we talked about like Dybala on yesterday's show, where he's being pulled down and still manages to shoot and score and stay on his feet. And Harry Kane, I feel like kind of consistently we see him do this, at least get the shot off where the ball is a little bit behind him, and at full speed, he's able to like reach the foot back and then pull the ball forward with him and then still get a shot off.
Maybe the secret is his full speed is not that fast, so it's actually quite easy for him to perform very technical tasks.
Okay, you got a point there.
But we do love Harry Kane. Yeah, so the game to watch coming soon is going to be Madrid-Spurs, which I think is going to happen back-to-back, home and away, in the next couple of match days. That's really exciting. Borussia Dortmund, good luck in the Europa League? Not officially yet, but we're getting there, aren't we?
I mean, no, but there's also a decent chance by the time we get through the next two games, like if something goes horribly wrong for Tottenham or for Madrid, then it could be Dortmund level on points with one of those two teams, because there's a decent chance they win both their games against Upwell.
There we go. Okay, I've already thanked you, so I'm going to thank listeners. Listeners,
that's fair.
Thank you for listening. Please join us again on Wednesday for the Listener Question Show. If you would like a t-shirt, we've got a short t-shirt sale going on at totalsoccershow.com/merch. Link will be in the show notes. We will talk to you again tomorrow. Slice it.